Once upon a time, in a small village nestled between lush hills, there lived a farmer named Raghav. He was a simple man, working tirelessly on his land to grow crops. Though he had enough to survive, he often felt unsatisfied. He looked at his neighbors who had more wealth, bigger houses, and finer clothes, and he couldn't help but feel a deep yearning in his heart. Why can't I have all the wealth I desire? He often wondered. One evening, as he was walking through his fields, feeling weary and frustrated, an old man appeared before him. The old man had a long white beard and glowing eyes. He smiled kindly at Raghav and said, "I know what you seek, young man. You want to be rich beyond your wildest dreams. I can help you." Raghav, surprised but intrigued, asked, "Who are you, and how can you help me?" The old man replied, "I am a wanderer who has seen many things. There is a magical field beyond the hills, a place where your desires can be fulfilled. But remember, the field grants riches only if you are wise and careful. If you take more than what you truly need, you will lose everything." Raghav was skeptical but eager. He decided to follow the old man's advice. The very next morning, he set off on a journey to find the magical field. The road was long and the sun was high, but Raghav's determination pushed him forward. He finally reached the field, and to his amazement, it was even more magnificent than he had imagined. Crops there were unlike any he had ever seen, shimmering grains of gold, fruits that sparkled in the sunlight, and flowers that seemed to sing in the breeze. Raghav couldn't believe his eyes. He eagerly began harvesting the golden crops, filling his bags with as much as he could carry. The more he took, the more the field seemed to grow, almost as if it were replenishing itself. Raghav thought, "I can take all of this. Why stop? The more I take, the richer I will become." As the day wore on, he continued harvesting without rest, thinking only of the wealth he would soon possess. With every handful of golden grain, he felt his greed grow. But deep in his heart, he remembered the old man's warning, "Take only what you need." However, the allure of endless riches clouded his judgment. The field seemed to be changing. The once vibrant plants began to fade, their glow dimming. The air grew heavy, and Raghav started to feel uneasy. But he shrugged off the feeling, thinking he could always return tomorrow to collect more. He gathered more and more until his bags were overflowing. That night, Raghav decided to sleep in the field, dreaming of all the wealth he would return with. But when he awoke in the morning, he was shocked. The field that had once been full of life and energy was now completely barren. The plants were withered, and the magical glow had disappeared. All that remained was a lifeless patch of soil. Raghav's heart sank. Panic set in as he realized what had happened. In his greed, he had taken everything, leaving nothing behind. The magical field, which had promised endless prosperity, had vanished. He searched desperately for a way to restore it, but there was no sign of the magic. Feeling devastated and foolish, Raghav slowly made his way back home. The journey seemed longer now, and he was no longer filled with excitement, but with regret. When he arrived at his small farm, he found that he had nothing to show for his greed. His once fruitful land, though modest, was now more precious to him than any riches. He had lost the magical field, but in the process, he had gained something far more valuable: understanding. The next few weeks were difficult for Raghav. He worked hard to restore his farm, planting new crops and caring for his land. He realized that the true wealth in life wasn't in endless possessions or riches, but in the joy of living simply, working honestly, and being content with what he had. Over time, Raghav's farm began to thrive again, though not in the way he had once imagined. It was not the magic of the field that brought him prosperity, but his hard work, patience, and gratitude. He learned to appreciate the beauty of the simple things, the rain that nourished his crops, the warmth of the sun, and the peacefulness of his life. Years later, the villagers would say that Raghav was one of the happiest and most contented people in the land. And though he never grew wealthy in the material sense, he had everything he truly needed. His life had been transformed, not by magic or riches, but by the wisdom he had gained through his own experience. Moral of the story: greed may offer temporary satisfaction, but true wealth comes from contentment, gratitude, and being mindful of what you already have. Taking more than you need often leads to loss, while living simply